restarting reading again because my phone is a piece of shit and stopped for no reason. I'm continuing at the preparations, continuing on from my previous reading of the first part that I divided because I needed a break. Sorry, I cursed, but it had no reason to do that, and it's very annoying. The preparations. The first step, of course, would be to create the conditions necessary to restabilize Avalon. To this end, Elaine plans to hijack a performance of a Midsummer Night's Dream. As a local theater main side using thaumaturgy to perform miraculous feats, as well as telling the four core stories upon which Avalon's foundations were built. You see that? I'm washing my shirt right now, so that's why I'm not wearing one. It's not because I don't have whatever. Elaine boiled this down to three main principles. Number one, that those who know the truth about Avalon's formation cannot power said formation. If you are in on the secret, it doesn't help. Number two, that widespread belief of legends does not work, as well as intense, utter belief and transfixation on the truth of these stories. The people at the theater are a captive audience who have been bottle-fed the world by normalcy organizations. This kind of belief is easy to get out of them. A normalcy organization could just be it could be like creepypasta, or like a theater company, or animations, just people that develop some foundations of what is normal or normalcy usually by fiction, I think, which helps to create realms. Number three, that the oldest stories told are the most potent. Elaine and I sat down with a Fey history professor and determined four stories to be contemporary with Avalon's founding: the theft of the infant Jodri by the 12 wolves, the marriage of Resna to the Prince of Crows, the poisoning of the drifter Lokai with a glass of strawberry wine. It's the contest between the three brothers of the wind who had been carved from logs of pine. Explaining any of these stories right now would take up far too much space here, and I can hear the distant hum of my editor for even considering it, but make sure to come down to the Wondertainment Memorial Theater next Monday night to see a reenactment of the festivals that took place in Maine. I know I'll be there. As much as I cared about the mission's purpose, I was really interested in seeing these stories brought to life. We'd love to have you. We would love to have you. I need to get something really quick. To that end, Elaine and I recruited a team of actors, mostly Faye and coming from Deer's theater program, the local city Shakespeare company, and the pathetic excuse of a theater program ICSUT offers. Whatever horrible war crimes the GOC plans to commit with theater kids, I shudder to think about. We also got 3 rheumatologists to help with the back end of things there. Bennett, Locke, and Clarence. And Sarah, Elaine's friend from the paratechnology department, would read the measurements and make sure everything goes smoothly. Then there was the other team. My nerve feels kind of weak today. It's probably why I'm not pronouncing things very enunciating as clearly. We planned to go outside and find our way to one of the ways that originally led to AVALON. Elaine had retrofitted a reality anchor from the ontology lab into a focus of sorts, a way of taking the initial flickering of the dimension and stabilizing it into a place I could explore, touch, and potentially even bring something back from. The 2 of us would be accompanied by my friend Caitlin, another Faye from 3 Portlands, who wanted to explore for herself as well, and my grandfather, Patriarch. For him, it would be a return home. He would get to see the crystal trees, taste the springs of honey one final time. We hit our first roadblock when scoping out the ways that originally led to AVALON. At the time of AVALON's deconceptualization, the residents used 5 ways in and out of the dimension. The first was in an old pub in Weymouth, which was easily the closest to the Isle, but the pub had long since been torn. One was a door in St. Joseph's Cathedral in Swansea, where the people there had very distinctly destroyed the doorway with fire. I guess someone in the British Occult Service tipped them off that unholy creatures used to pass through it. The 3rd and 4th ones were in the woods which have now been developed into shopping centers, and the 5th was at the base of a statue in a public square in Belfast. That one is still possible to use theoretically, but it would be incredibly public. The Foundation would show up within minutes, and we'd be fine. At first the project seemed lost, and Elaine was prepared to test this on another one of the Fae's smaller pocket dimensions that were the victims of similar events. I told Patriarch about this, and he just laughed and said, "Well, why don't you try using the old way in Estenburg? As it turns out, Fae civilizations tended to keep in contact." I can't say I expected anything from this development. Massive swaths of Estenburg had been thoroughly destroyed and were presently being rebuilt from the ground up by its destroyers, so the chances were slim that the way was still there was no way for us to go out there to scout it out before the day. It was simply too far. We simply had to hold our breath and hope for the best. Goodbye, sandwich this time. I'm going to eat this. I need to. I'll be right back. Hello, it is me. It's been a couple of days since I read the first part of the SCP Foundation file of finding Avalon, rediscovering my history. So, let's see. I stopped at the chapter of a dimension's demise, and I will continue at the preparations. I need to shave. I don't like having facial hair. The preparations. The first step, of course, would be to create the conditions necessary to restabilize Avalon. To this end, Elaine plans to hijack a performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream at a local theater main side using thaumatology to perform miraculous feats, as well as telling the 4 core stories upon which Avalon's foundations were built. Elaine boiled this down to 3 main principles. Number 1, that those who know the truth about Avalon's formation cannot power said formation. If you are in on the secret, it doesn't help. 2, that widespread belief of legends does not work as well as intense, utter belief in transfixion, on the truth of these stories, being transfixed on the truth of these stories. The people at the theater are a captive audience who have been bottle-fed a world by normalcy organizations. This kind of belief is easy to get out of them. Number 3, that's the... I'm back. Take 2. Roll it again. Opening night. These are good. There are good and bad things about free ports. One of the good things is that they're free. Which makes sense. No matter how choking a grasp on the magical world the Foundation has, there are places where the people deemed anomalous can live without fear. One of the bad things is that they're incredibly self-contained. There is no way of getting messages between free ports without actually going there yourself. I've been told that the people at Marshall, Carter, and Dark, are attempting to find a way to make that work. But I have low expectations of Project Void, considering Nick, MC, and D's, not McDonald's, past track record with unprofitable projects. Either way, for the time being, anything that we needed to plan out between both groups had to be done before we set out on our journey. Flying to the Setochawa was out of the question, considering the impossible to pronounce title and the SRA in our luggage. Now that wasn't in the book, but we're fine. So Elaine and I rented a van, and the four of us drove across Europe over the course of 2 days. It was hard to keep to the timetables. The European countryside was beautiful, and I kept finding myself asking why we couldn't spend another day to visit a town in France or Germany that we were passing through. Caitlin was even more distracted than I was. While I was still focused enough on the mission at hand, she seemed to be wondering why we couldn't just take a trip through Europe instead. Patriarch mostly just complained about Elaine's driving. Living in 3 Portlands, we don't often get a chance to ride in a motor vehicle because of the size of the ways, so I guess I understand where my grandfather was coming from. We got to the Setochawa and located a nearby way in an alley between 2 apartment buildings, renting a hotel for the night. I had visited Esterberg once as a child. It was through a Fey outreach organization with Trium Barete, who snuck us across the then Soviet-occupied border, and I remember how beautiful it was. The thin streets surrounded by brick buildings, the monumental temples, the crowds of the Grand Market. There wasn't anything like it, and there still isn't. When we walked through the living district, I expected to see that beauty destroyed, with only feeble attempts having been made at its restoration. What I saw instead was almost worse. The renovations were almost complete at this point. Only the odd house out was under construction, but I could immediately tell which houses had been rebuilt and which ones had not. The rebuilt houses had no soul, no history, as they attempted to imitate the centuries of history the city had. It was a mockery of Esterberg, an attempt to make someone look at any given street and not be able to tell that anything had happened. Although you knew immediately, it would have been less offensive if they hadn't tried to make it look as if the houses were a part of the rest of Esterberg, because that would at least acknowledge that violence happened here, that people had died. Excuse me. We found a small hotel, a small 2-story building, next to Ambrose Esterberg, and took one of the rooms there. The innkeeper, a black-furred Yaran named Humphrey, was one of the nicest people I've ever met, and made sure that every need was attended to. We had a celebratory dinner at Ambrose. It was incredible, though I highly advise against getting the recursive stuffed peppers as an option. Ran out of storage. So, about the peppers. My gut. Blah 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 blah. Peppers, something peppers. No, no. 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 I highly advise against getting the recursive stuffed peppers, as it felt like I had been eating them for an entire day by the time I'd finished. When we got back, Humphrey had brewed us a few glasses of tea, and we explained to him our mission as we sat by the fire. He found our goal incredibly fascinating and asked us questions such as whether Esterberg was built on a similar foundation as Avalon. As far as Elaine could tell, it wasn't. And about fake culture in Three Portals, Patriarch retired to his room early, and after a while, Humphrey went to work to start his day. That left Elaine, Caitlin, and I to talk about the task at hand. Caitlin told me that she had been adopted by a human foster family at a young age, and had never had a chance to connect to her Fae heritage. When Elaine had mentioned her projects to Caitlin, she had no idea of what she was getting into. She told me about how beautiful she thought Esterberg was, how she'd never seen anything like it, and how she finally felt connected to her heritage, being here. I told her how much more beautiful it was before what had happened, about the massacre and the rebuilding efforts, and she asked me why I didn't seem to think that the people rebuilding Esterberg actually wanted to help restore the city to its former brilliance. Maybe I am too cynical. I'm not sure. I am not sure. Only time will tell, really. But can you blame me for being cynical after everything I've seen? We went to sleep in beds that Humphrey had meticulously made for us. There were a few spindly black hairs between the layers of the sheets, but I didn't mind and dreamed of a forgotten land. It was 1 a.m. when Elaine shook me awake. Esterberg's sun and moon rise at the same time as in the Secto Chara, and an evening production in Maine would be in the middle of the night in Poland. So, fittingly, we would be reopening Avalon's gates during the witching hour. Caitlin and I woke up without much fuss, but Patriarch cursed my friend out when he was woken up before coming to awareness and profusely apologizing. Elaine had slept a little later than she had wanted to, so time was of the essence. We hurriedly rushed out of the inn, barefoot on the cobblestone streets of the living district. The moon was full, and the chill of Poland's October breeze surrounded us as we followed the signs to the market district. We ran up and down the hills, past the Yaren, going about their daily lives and the occasional nocturnal Finfolk member, until we got there. It is a well-known fact that the Grand Market never slows down. Every hour of Estenberg's day, there will be someone willing to buy something, and 10 more people willing to sell you exactly that. We passed by an old fey woman selling orthothan charms, a family of underphobians selling blankets, and a homemade pastry stand where, despite our rush, I did buy some sweet rolls from a pair of twin brothers. They tasted just like home, and, though my grandfather would kill me if I said it directly to him, might have even been better than the ones at our local bakeries. Eventually we found it, a large stone gateway built into the side of one of the buildings. It was ornately decorated, just like the house I had seen in the picture I was given. I could see Loche about to drink the glass of wine he had been offered by a wayward traveler. The horrifying visage of the Prince of Crows being revealed for the first time to his bride, the 12 wolves presenting the child that they had found to their master and being rewarded for their diligence. This was the gateway, and it was standing just as it had on that last day. The last day was just on it. As I stared at it, I realized just how real this was. I was about to visit Avalon, a place that had not existed for almost a century, a place that my parents did not even have the chance to see. I think Patriarch saw how nervous I was, patted me on the back, and told me that it would be fine. Elaine took the reality anchor out of her bag and placed it next to the doorway. The production started 5 minutes ago, she said, connecting the anchor to a generator from her bag. We'll be seeing results any time now. We watched it begin to whir to life. No one seemed to notice what we were doing, too focused on all the other going-ons of the markets to see us. It took 10 minutes for anything to happen, and I began to worry that nothing would happen. Eventually, I saw a faint image of a forest appear against the brick wall behind the gateway, almost imperceptible if you were not looking at it. 15 minutes after that, the image began to fill with color and I could see the canopy of rainbow crystal trees appear before my eyes. It was more beautiful than I could have imagined. Elaine had to physically restrain Caitlin from entering the gateway. She wanted to give the new dimension a bit of time to stabilize its existence before we entered into it. I was using all of my willpower to stop myself from doing the same. My grandfather's face had the biggest smile I had ever seen on it. He told me it looked just like it did when he was a child. Finally, Elaine pulled out a can't counter and held it up to the door. The readings were stable. She handed us headsets so that we could communicate with her through the rift, reminding us to be back out of the gateway in an hour and 43 minutes. We were cleared to enter. Now we were truly in uncharted territory. So this is the term that Americans would use of shit is about to go down because they're in the rabbit hole, it's called. So now, let me be right back. Instead of uploading, I'm processing it, I'm creating it into the secret formula I use for these videos. It's a surprise movie, so I won't say what it is until I'm done. Let's see. And I downloaded the 2016 game Doom. Based off of the Doom from the 90s that I will play and record in the same mystery graphic template I use for these videos. Now, and I'm currently processing my SCP Foundation Secret Laboratory game that I've played in the admin edition, which is what the mystery template is called, of the settings I configured to create that format. But anyways, down the rabbit hole. Caitlin was the first to walk in. We all watched as she entered the forest where a wall had been, seconds before, overcome with joy as she ran through the threshold. Patriarch was a bit slower, even though he had shown some of his old youthful energy running to the gate. He cautiously approached the entrance, walking slowly through the door. I helped him through as he admired everything around him, stepping into AVALON by his side. It's hard to describe what I felt walking in. It's like every one of your senses is expanded, more easily able to take in the glory of the world in front of you. I could see further and in far greater color. I could hear every change in the summer winds as they rustled through the crystalline trees. I could smell and taste the sweetness in the air, feel its every minute vibration. It was unchanged from the July day 1905 when everything ceased. Everything ceased. I don't read ahead, that's why my pronunciations are sometimes off. Everything was in the place that it was, simply waiting for life to be breathed back into it. Patriarch took the lead immediately. He knew the terrain intimately, even though he left AVALON when he was only 8. He looked at me like a proud father, guiding us along a dirt path through the forest. The first thing he wanted to see was the old mill by the river, where they ground up the flour to make bread and sweet rolls for the whole town. Reminds me of over the garden wall. As we walked along the path, none of us dared to speak. There are times in life where you speak, and times in your life when you simply shut up and take everything in. I was surprised by how sparse everything in AVALON seemed. It wasn't like Esterberg with 3 Portlands, where every part of the pocket dimension was covered in buildings. Instead, AVALON was expansive. We walked past the occasional cabin, each one carved in ornate patterns, but much of the walk was only the path and the crystal forest around us. When we got to the mill, the water wheel was still turning, but it seemed to be slowing down, ceasing. It was not ornately carved like the cabins, serving its function without worry of its form. Patriarch cupped his hands in the river below us and took a drink. Caitlin followed his example. They both looked refreshed, content, like the sweet honey taste of the water quenched the thirst that they had been heretofore unaware of. I did not drink the water. However, as my eye was caught on the horizon, where the land and the river seemed to end in a white haze. It was like someone had taken an eraser to the expanse of the forest and scrubbed away at it. And I wasn't sure, but it appeared like it was moving closer to us. Closer. Patriarch gestured to me to keep moving forward, and we crossed the bridge. The next step was his childhood home, the one I had seen in the photograph, and then to the town center. We crossed the wooden bridge over the river and continued onto the path. But on this leg of the journey, I found myself focusing on the edges and corners of the forest around us. Small pockets of white unreality bubbling up around us and vanishing like TV static. It had not yet even been an hour. Surely we had more time, right? But the beautiful world around us, around me, the more the beautiful world around us felt so sickeningly sweet. They wrote that wrong. I didn't read that wrong. They wrote it wrong. I stared at the beautiful world around us felt so so sickeningly sweet, as if it was hiding something from me. Caitlin was inquisitively asking Patriarch hundreds of questions, practically shaking in her excitement. She was feeling what I expected to feel when I thought about this project. Use head emotions will be so fun. I'm just kidding about it. I didn't voice my concerns, too nervous to ruin their excitement. Telling myself that I worried too much over nothing. And since it's a story from the SCP Foundation, you know some horrible tragedy is going to happen. Probably a monster is going to come and maul them into pieces. But I don't know, I can't say, so I'm going to see. We first realized just how wrong things were when we got to my grandfather's cabin. On the one hand, it looked exactly how I imagined it would be from the photograph. I saw the carvings in so much more detail, noticing 100 more details that I could not see from the pictures on the walls. But to our right, its edge almost grazing the house's corner, was an all-consuming wall of non-existence. Caitlin immediately turned on the mic on her headset and asked Elaine if anything was wrong on her end. The longest 3 seconds of my life followed before our earphones crackled and we got a response. Elaine responded to us, saying that she had slightly overcalculated the amount of time we had. There wasn't a huge rush, but it would be best if we turned back and made our way to the doorway at a brisk pace. Having known her for as long as I have, the barely disguised panic in her voice told me all I needed to know. They're screwed. That wasn't in the file. We would have done so immediately. Had I not felt a pat on my back. It was an old woman asking us if we were with the British Occult Service. she's probably not real. I have no idea, but I wouldn't trust her. That isn't in the file, that's just me. The implications of this have not yet reached me. The patriarch recognized her immediately as Satria, one of the town elders. Satria narrowed her gaze and immediately recognized the child, the rascal who would always be running around town, now over 90 years old. Wow. The horror on her face as she realized how long it had been mirrored mine, as I realized that there was one last evacuation planned, one which never ended up happening. We were supposed to leave for 3 portals tomorrow, she kept repeating. We were supposed to go tomorrow. Caitlin immediately said that we needed to get them out. That it was our responsibility. I protested. I gestured to the abyss right next to us, almost nibbling at the corner of my great-grandparents' home, and said that we had to leave. Is now. Caitlin wouldn't go. That wasn't what she said. And she said that we had to leave. Caitlin wouldn't. She ran further down the path, towards the town center. What a jackass. That wasn't in the file. I ran after her, and Patriarch followed after me. Eventually we reached the top of a hill. Not the hill, a hill. It's not that important. Doesn't get it that. Below us was the town center, and I don't know if I can give justice to what I saw down there. Fine, I'm almost done. It's not like I'm glad I'm not reading anymore. It's just that usually the SCP files are shorter. So I would do multiple ones instead of one long one in separate parts. But you'll know what that means later when I read them. That this is more an exception of a story than a SCP file. You'll see. Large pillars of light jetted up into the sky, like jagged rocks or tornadoes. In the sky, on the grass, on every house, tiny white spots appeared and disappeared like a field of TV static, encompassing the place. Excuse me. The remaining Fae in the town center huddled together in rags, weathering the storm around them, grasping onto anything nearby to steady themselves. This brought nothing. Some of them simply sat and drank whatever form of alcohol they had with them. Some people were missing hands, but not as if the hands were amputated. Their arm just faded into surroundings around them. Still others had holes in their torsos or their sides, bits coming off of them as they desperately tried to find shelter. It's like the island of misfit toys in the Christmas stop-motion movie, which you might not have seen. Caitlin and I exchanged glances, and we both came to the same conclusion. These people were beyond help. I could see that. I said that. It's not in the file. Right here, right now, with no resources to get them out, we could do nothing. We saw Patriot climb his way up the hillside, panting, out of breath. He's nappy. I don't even know how he can run that fast. Immediately, I ran to him. I said that wasn't in the file. I guess this is going to be a running gag now. Immediately, I ran to him and turned him around, covering his eyes as I did. There was nothing for him to see. The only thing we needed to do was to leave. I don't remember much more after that. My mind was focused on the singular goal of abandoning the lifeless, maggot-infested corpse of Avalon that we failed to revive. Caitlin ran back in terror as fast as she could, just as she had run in joy a few moments earlier. I was focused on helping my grandfather get there. All of us ignored Satria as we passed her a second time, her pleas for salvation falling on deaf ears, because there was nothing we could have done. I do not know how close we came to annihilation that day, but I know that it was not far from it, as Elaine had already packed the reality anchor back up when we returned. The relief on her face when she saw me said enough. We didn't speak to Elaine about what we saw in there, and she didn't speak to us about waiting for us at the gateway. We had plans to spend a few days in Esterberg after the experiment. We didn't. And what remains? I'm saying this so I don't lose it. There. And what remains? It's been a few weeks since we got back to Deer and the college. I said that. It wasn't in the file. And I still don't know what it all means. I apologize to any of my friends who I've been blown off in this time. I've mostly kept to myself, sitting in my dorm and drifting through classes as I've seen fit. When I sat down to begin writing this, I didn't really know if I could do it. Now, starring at the page I've written, I think cringe, yes. I think more of it makes sense now. Not much more, but more of it nonetheless. I haven't spoken to Elaine since the return. She's spoken to me, though. 1,000 apologies on my answering machine for the miscalculation. I don't really know if I blame her for any of it. Honestly, it depends on the day and on my mood. And how hungry I am. That was not. For her, Avalon was only an afterthought. The goal was to get more insight into how to protect 3 Portlands in case something similar happened, and we got to that. Did we not? We know the numbers that don't work, at least. That's one way to do it. Wasn't enough. She even caused that suffering in the first place. Perhaps that was just how we got late, but I see. Yeah, I did. She doesn't know. Wait, no, I didn't. She doesn't know about the suffering we caused, the missing hands, the humbled masses. If we even caused that suffering in the first place, perhaps that was just how the dimension was on the day of its deconceptualization. We prolonged it nonetheless. An additional hour, maybe even more, where they were forced to exist in a world that couldn't. Caitlin and I have gotten through it together. Dear has appointed us both free counseling sessions after we told them what we saw. If I could go through that to get a free counseling session, I wouldn't. I would do it to not get one because I hate being treated like an experiment, which will happen if you see a psychologist and you pay them less than $2,000 a session or a month of sessions. It's very overpriced. When they have the generation of bootstraps that just get over it and suck it up, it will save you lots of money than seeing a psychologist. If that was not in the file. I had to mention this before. Caitlin and I have gotten through it together. Dear has appointed us both free counseling sessions after we told them what we saw, and we've become our own source of sanity as well. Several nights were spent watching the strangest public access TV shows 3 Portland has to offer, eating cheap snacks and lying on our dorm's common room couch like a bunch of jackasses. That wasn't in the file. Patriarch says we're bound to marry each other one day. I highly doubt it. Highly. Patriarch's been telling all his friends about the experience during the backgammon nights at Mrs. B's City Diner, bragging about how beautiful it all was, about tasting the springs of honey one last time. Sound of my own voice? Well, it's the only thing I have to work with since I'm talking to myself. Let's see. Blah blah blah. Testing the springs of honey one last time. I don't think many of them believe him. Satria doesn't come up in any of the tellings, which makes sense. I don't even know what they're talking about, but I'm reading it anyways, and that wasn't in the file. If you're wondering, like, what does this mean? I don't know. I'm just reading it. Maybe you can read it again and figure it out. I don't know. That isn't in the file. Satria doesn't come up in any of the tellings, which makes sense. He's always been a man of few words when something rattles him, but I can see in his eyes that the new knowledge of the last uncompleted evacuation weighs on him. When I hear his stories, though, his eyes light up with uncontainable joy, and I can at least find solace in the fact that he went back to his homeland at least once more, and even more solace that I did not let him see the sight at the town center. Hurry up, shut up. I'll let him die ignorant of it. There are so many emotions swirling around my head about this situation. The excitement to be able to visit Avalon, the joy of the first few minutes there, the quiet contentment centered. The quiet contentment of the night in Esterberg, the dread of unreality, the knot in my stomach after seeing Satria, the visions of immense pain and suffering as the town center. I'd like to say that I wish we hadn't done it. But that's just not true. If anything, it's given me a sort of hope. Ideas can be returned to the world. As long as there are those who remember Avalon, there will be a way to get it back. Even if it is centuries from now, when the empty throne of normalcy falls and nothing stands in the way of everyone completely. No, wait, I skipped a line. It wasn't in the file. Even if it is centuries from now, when the empty throne of normalcy falls and nothing stands in the way of these story weavers, the people I saw were not lost forever. We know that now. We do. No, it wasn't in the file. And hey, maybe if everyone completely forgets about Avalon somehow, someone can find a copy of this newspaper in the archives 100 years from now and do what we couldn't. I wonder who that would be. Maybe, no, it wasn't in the fucking file. Maybe that's why I wrote this. Who knows? I guess I'll leave you with some, excuse my language. No, it wasn't in the file. It wasn't in the file. I guess I'll leave you with something that I heard about campus a few days ago. Rumors of the activities of the foundation, while abundant among three Portlands are almost always false. So I'm taking this one with a massive grain of salt. But I've heard people saying that a few weeks ago in October, the Foundation discovered a group of people emerge from a door at the base of a statue in a public square in Belfast. They were malnourished and parts of them did not fully exist. I don't know how that worked. No, it wasn't in the file. They were missing arms and legs and part of their torso. The Foundation transferred them to Site 120, where specialists might be able to rehabilitate them. I don't know if it's true, but if it's not, that's a hell of a coincidence. Maybe we saved some people after all. End of log, or file, not log. This log, the video, is the log. The file is the story. The story, also known as the file, has been completed. So, something I'll comment is that I've been treating with the right machine cancer, and I noticed I felt much better after doing that. And because of that, I'm just feeling better in my life in general now, but I need to recover, so I'm just resting and making these videos while I did that. And something also to know about the song by Glenn Leroy with the SCP Foundation, Nine-Tailed Fox, is that he has a video. Glenn Leroy had an aggressive form of cancer about a year ago or so, where he's been having cancer treatment for many months. Excuse me. But he finished it, and he's been, so far as I know of, cured of it, I think. And a month ago he made a video of an acoustic version of the Nine-Tailed Fox song, something he made when he finished his treatment for the cancer, and he's been relieved from that. And I thought later, maybe today, or tomorrow when I post the videos, whenever I finish this video and post it, I think I will upload that one as well. So the context of part of the Nine-Tailed Fox song is also the celebration of the death of cancer. So something to know about Glenn Leroy is that many of the songs he's made with the SCP Foundation were when he was undergoing cancer treatment. So he still produced all of those songs even with that. And I will be sure to convert more in the future and upload them. And I'm not for me, it's not nearly as severe as his. It's like mine is very passive, and it's rapidly declining. So, because of the Rife machine, which was made in the 1920s, but has been slightly improved now to cure cancer, and it does cure cancer, but most people don't know about it, but I do, which is why I'm telling you. He doesn't use the Rife machine, but maybe I could tell him about it, because most people don't believe it, but it's becoming more common now. There was a massive scandal around the 1930s where they tried to demonize the Rife machine, this corporation, because of how cheap cancer treatment would be. As they actually demonized it and ran it to the ground because of the billions of dollars that would be lost in a $2,000 machine that could cure cancer compared to these treatments. So I think the SCP Foundation, what I'm finding is that cancer itself exists as a force that feeds on the highest elements of the human body, which is why it's so dangerous. And I think the SCP Foundation is founded on the elements that cancer feeds on. So if there is a disease that is at war, I think, with the SCP Foundation, it would be cancer. And the thing is that if you're rife for cancer and you don't have cancer, it actually stimulates the parts of your body that are natural for you that cancer normally feeds on, but promotes the growth of it instead. So it would contribute to connecting these separate realms together using the electromagnetic frequencies of cancer, which I've had some. I've recorded some of the video frequencies and things in my previous videos, but anyways, that's a lot of like, whatever. But I'm glad that I read this story, and I'll add this to my channel. And I hope you have enjoyed this log. I'm just a ray of sunshine. Yes, I'm very pissed at people with how incompetent that it's not like the average person is responsible for being competent with treating diseases. It's when these people who have all of the equipment, they demonize people for their lack of education and prevent other people from accessing the knowledge they have, and they only use that to promote their own selfish ideologies rather than actually promote health for the people of the country, which is what they should do. And those people will burn in hell. That is if you ever meet someone like that, please punch them in the face and tell them to rot in hell. So thank you for watching, and this is the end of the vlog. I'll take care. Bye-bye. This is Liam Mahoney. It's Friday, May 12th, 7:08, 2023. Yes, it is the future. Welcome to the future, and welcome to the SCP Foundation with your narrator, the admin, or at least one admin. When I played the SCP Foundation, the secret laboratory, I was friends with admins, and they would allow me to be one, but I denied it because I just wanted to watch what happened and not be given a leadership role. And that's why I like these stories, is that I can observe everything without interacting with it. So, it's like admin is more of a shared title than a specific person, just whoever is leading, I think, the moment of the moments that's passing. They're the admin. It's just a concept I made. So, bye. I'll see you later. And have a great